Hello, all, and welcome once again to another episode of Everyday Black History. Now, today we're going to be highlighting an institution by the name of Capital Savings Bank, which was the first bank organized and operated by African Americans, and it was founded in Washington, D.C. on October 17th, 1888. Now, Capital Savings Bank helped stimulate black entrepreneurship by offering loans to black-owned businesses and landowners when white-owned banks were not. Now, confidence in the bank continued to grow so much that a few years later, in 1892, the deposits were estimated at over 300,000. Now, the beginnings of black capitalism in America have a strong history. Despite, racial segregation and everything that our people have been through during the first 30 years of the 20th century, black capitalism began to thrive and thrive strongly. Because economic empowerment was another vehicle for equality, a great entrepreneurial spirit showed in the escalation of the founding of black banks, insurance companies, newspapers, and other enterprises that serve the black community. Black churches and black fraternal organizations raised and channeled that economic spirit into empowerment. Now, at first, black churches didn't have businesses in the traditional sense, but they owned buildings and real estate, the only major assets that were owned by blacks at the time. And these institutions collected large sums of contributions and soon went on to establish the first black banks, Capital Savings being one of them. Because of their enormous growth, black businesses began to grow strongly, with receipts in the millions of dollars from products sold primarily to a black consumer market. Now, this couldn't have materialized without the capital and credit that black banks provided and white-owned financial institutions were unwilling to give. For example, Richard Wright established Citizens and Southern Bank and Trust Company, which we will be having an episode on soon. But he established that and played a vital role in launching many small enterprises that included grocery stores, bakeries, and cleaning establishments, as well as caterers. Now, Capital Savings Bank closed its doors in 1902, but it became a model for other black-owned banks across the country. And between 1888 and 1934, 134 black banks were established, and from 1867 to 1917, the number of black businesses increased from 4,000 to 50,000 according to records. So we can see how important this institution, Capital Savings Bank, as well as just black banks were to black culture and black history. Now, unfortunately, the last report I read recently, the black banks or banks owned by African Americans only amount to 25, maybe even less now, which is saddening and it's a shame. But we highlight this institution to show the importance of its need back then as well as now. So, Capital Savings Bank, we thank you for your contribution. We thank you for all that you contributed to helping black businesses grow and black entrepreneurship grow, and we salute you. So, that concludes this episode of Everyday Black History. Please tune in as we'll continue to bring you more black institutions as well as black men and women who contributed to black culture and black history. So, stay tuned.